This is Lisa from Mobile Tech Review, and finally, a lot of you have been asking for this. We're going to look at the 2014 refresh of the Lenovo X1 Carbon. This is a ThinkPad product. Their thinnest, lightest, 3 pounds or less. Haswell inside. We're going to look at it now. Well, thanks for your patience, everybody. I know there were a lot of you asking for the review of this, and Lenovo took a while getting the review units out. So this is the Lenovo ThinkPad X1 Carbon. Same name as last year's model, but improved beast inside, called the 2014 edition, whatever you want to call it. This is the one with Intel Haswell inside. Why is that a big deal? For those of you who aren't up on laptop stuff so much, that's Intel's 4th generation platform for laptops and desktops as well. And it consumes a lot less power, makes less heat, so therefore much better battery life on laptops. Performance is not so different from the 3rd generation Ivy Bridge, but one of the complaints we had about the last gen X1 Carbon, much as we loved it, was the battery life was not real stellar. It's definitely better, on the average of up to 2 hours better, so significant gains inside. On the outside, stays pretty much the same kind of Lenovo, not as soft touch as the old days finish, but that matte black finish, 14 inches, so it's a little bit bigger than the average Ultrabook. That's 13.3 inches right there. So it's a lot thinner. You can see right here compared to the average ThinkPad. Now, I know those of you who don't like ThinkPads are going to say this isn't so styling, but as ThinkPads go, quite styling, nice and slim. Take a look on the side here. Also, just under 3/4 of an inch, so it's pretty darn slim. Think of it as the MacBook Air for the corporate set, since ThinkPad really targets businesses. That doesn't mean you, a consumer, can't go out and buy one, and those of you who do buy them for yourself all the time know that. You can get them from Lenovo's website and from a couple of bricks and mortar retailers, a lot of online sellers. Anyway, like I said, pretty much the same basic design on the outside. We'll go over all the ports in a minute. But one thing that's important that has changed is the keyboard. Now this opens up flat, like a lot of Lenovo laptops. Notice this interesting thing here. Instead of a row of function keys that you would normally have, it's been replaced by this touch-sensitive strip that's context-sensitive. And we'll throw up a little cheat sheet card for you to take a look at so you can see what all those functions are. A couple of different contexts. One, general use. One that, for example, would work in MS Office, where it's predominantly function keys that you're going to have available right here. One for Internet Explorer, one for video conferencing. It's kind of annoying. You know, it's funny, of all the companies to mess with a keyboard in a radical way, you never think Lenovo would do that on the ThinkPad, because their bread and butter is the best keyboard that you can get in terms of tactile feel, typing, normalness. So now if you want to use the function keys and the thing that you need available isn't available, you have to hit the FN over here and then get it to cycle through the various contexts. Not a real fan of it. For example, if you just want to turn on or change the stages of backlighting for the backlight keyboard, it used to be you would just use the spacebar. So now you got to hit the FN key and then wait for the cycle through to get the right keys just to get to control something like that. Likewise for volume, brightness, it's just, The good news is the rest of this right here, just as good as the last X1 Carbon. It's a very good keyboard. A little bit harder plastic than we see on the ThinkPad X240, which is a 12.5 inch model. A little bit less travel. I prefer the ThinkPad X240 personally. It's just so dreamy feeling. Really nice soft keys on the top right here. Good key travel. But this one also is a very excellent keyboard. Nice and quiet. You don't hear a clacking, nasty noise. Good times. Another thing I don't like due to the keyboard revision, though, here's your delete key right next to your backspace key. Boy, it's really easy to hit delete instead, and as we all know, they do kind of different things, so that doesn't always work out very well. And look, there is no caps lock key. Oh my God, of all the companies to do that, Lenovo, who'd have thought, right? So you got to hit the shift key twice. Might not be the end of the world, you know, in mobile land we're used to doing that on some of our smartphones, but the thing is, sometimes you tend to hit that more often than you want. It's actually pretty easy to turn on caps lock when you didn't mean to. So, nice tactile experience, great layout, smile-shaped keys, all that good stuff. Lenovo did design this to also work with Nuance Dragon Assistant, which is voice control, and they've added some gestures. You swipe forward, swipe back, you know, to change pages. Something we've seen on Sony Vaio laptops for some time, and I kind of consider those gimmicky. And Dragon is just, well, it's not the most reliable thing. Trackpad here You can see that's also changed. It's the new buttonless model that Lenovo is using for all their laptops now. Still have the track point, razor stick pointer right here. Click zones, it does move. Nice, smooth click. A little bit larger too, because I got rid of the physical buttons that used to be here, so a little bit more room to work. Excellent keyboard as always, excellent trackpad. Synaptics makes it. So that is also a great experience. Another thing that's changed is the display options. By default, the less expensive model, which is $1,200, has a non-touch 1600 by 900 display. That doesn't sound so different. That's a TN panel with 250 nits of brightness. But the model that we have here has a new QHD option. That is a touch screen. So if you want the higher resolution, you have to go with touch. 2560 by 1440 pixels. Right now we're set at 150% DPI scaling. Lenovo went even higher out of the factory. They did a 200%, which is like having 1280 by 720. Not really that great. So I think this is a nice balance of keeping things kind of readable. So 10 points of multi-touch right here. Super high resolution if you want it. This is an IPS panel according to Lenovo, and they say it has 300 nits of brightness. It doesn't look that bright to me, to be honest. And our colorimeter, we use a Datacolor Spider 4 Pro colorimeter, measured at only 225 nits of brightness. I have a feeling it has to do with the matte coating. There's less glare. It's not completely anti-glare. If I move this back and forth, you might actually see some glare popping up. But it puts a kind of haze over the display. I'm not really fond of when Lenovo does that. And this is a film. I've heard of some people actually peeling the film off the edges. I'm not saying you should do that, but probably it would be a bit brighter. I'm betting that this is actually reducing the emitted light on it, and it looks kind of hazy, milky, like I said. There's no screen dooring, there's no moire kind of look to it, but it just makes it look a little bit duller. What a shame. Is a 1600 by 900 non-touch model like that? I wish I could tell you, but we don't have one. As ever, build quality on this thing is good. Carbon fiber reinforced polymer on the top. Doesn't that sound impressive? Call it carbon fiber. The base, magnesium aluminum alloy. So it passed mil-spec tests, that sort of thing. There are no keyboard drain holes here, so it doesn't look like a spill-proof keyboard to me. Lenovo doesn't make a mention. Here's the bottom. It is affixed with small Phillips head screws for those of you who are adventurous and wish to service or remove that at some point. These Ultrabooks, a lot of stuff is soldered on board. Of course, your CPU is, the RAM is. You can order this with 4 or 8 gigs of DDR3 RAM. The SSD drive, there's a couple of different configurations that are available, starting with 128 gig SSD, the usual base. We have the 180 gig Intel Opal drive, which is a bit faster. You can go up to 256, even higher. There's a higher capacity Intel Opal SSD. Anyway, that's an M2 form factor, the newer M2 form factor. You can upgrade that yourself. And the wireless card is socketed, but it does have Intel Wi-Fi 7260 AC wireless. They're dual band. So right now that's the top of the line card. I can't think of anything you would want to replace it with. And as those of you who buy ThinkPads know, they do blacklist cards, whitelist cards, however you want to look at it. So only some are allowed. So you can't just pick up any card and swap it in. You have to get one of the Lenovo approved ones or order it from Lenovo Parts. The port story has also improved from the older generation of the X1 Carbon. This side we don't see too much. We have a USB 3.0 port right here. We have some vents, we have a lock slot, and we have this mysterious little thing here with the networking picture. Because these days laptops are so thin, you get dongles. Asus used to do that a lot. Samsung has done that. So in the box you get this direct Ethernet. So you're not using up a USB port anymore to do that, and you're getting better speed, and that's nice. A little bit of a child choke hazard here. Be careful where you leave this. Be careful you don't leave it on the airplane. So it just goes right in to here, and then you have your gigabit Ethernet. Nice. On the other side, we have the new rectangular style connector. And notice this, we've got the extra little door over here. That's for the one-link port once you unplug that piece of rubber from it. And for those of you who are not familiar, this is Lenovo's one-link port. It's also compatible with the new one-link Pro. So this is basically a very nice, tidy dock. It gets it all done. This is the original one-link. 2 USB 3.0 ports up front, headphone jack. Power right there, full-size HDMI. You got Ethernet, and you got 2 more USB 2.0 ports on the back, and it plugs into the power connector and the additional connector next to the power connector when you pull out the rubber plug. And these are pretty reasonably priced too, so it's nice. Given that business docks are quite expensive, around $150 or so for the standard one-link dock. For the rest of the ports here, we have full-size HDMI. That's a pleasure for something thin. We don't need another dongle adapter for that. Mini display port as well. My goodness, VGA is finally gone from a Lenovo. That's quite something there. And another USB 3.0 port, and there's our combo mic headphone jack. And last but not least, on the back here, you can get this with a Gobi 5000 modem with either a AT&T or Verizon micro SIM for 3G, 4G LTE access. So that's where your SIM card would go. And now for a little size comparison, for those of you who know you want a small Lenovo ThinkPad, but you're not sure exactly how small, this is the X240 that we reviewed. And you can see it's thicker, it's chunkier, it's more like a traditional ThinkPad. That does get you room for more ports, a little more cooling. 12.5 inch, so it's going to have a smaller footprint, even though, yes, it is thicker. So there's the difference there. And when it comes to the keyboards, they're going to look nearly identical. Here we have them sitting right on top of each other so you can see how similar the keyboards are. Of course, this has a normal FN row at the top with actual moving keys. And the delete key not right beside the backspace key, and look, the caps lock key is there. So for those of you who want a little bit more traditional ThinkPad feel and layout on a keyboard, the X240 certainly still has its appeal. So how about the rest of the specs? You can get this with a Core i5 or i7 CPU. There is no Core i3 option. You can't go too low end on this one. And you can get the i5-4200U, 1.6 GHz. These are all dual core, by the way. That's been around for a while. Or the new i5-4300U with a base 1.9 GHz clock speed. All of these do have turbo boost. And that's the model that we have. So when we tell you benchmarks, that's the model that we're going by. And there's also the Core i7-4600U. Not a wild difference between the Ultrabook i5 and i7 CPUs. Same architecture, same dual core. You know, if you're going to spend your money, I say go for more RAM and more storage, but that is up to you. Again, you can get this with 4 or 8 gigs of DDR3 RAM. That's soldered on board. You're not going to upgrade that yourself. SSD drives. And, of course, this has Intel HD 4400 graphics like most all Ultrabooks. Integrated graphics, Intel. Not a bad performer. That's where we do see an improvement over Ivy Bridge for integrated graphics performance. Diablo 3 at low resolutions and low quality, yes. We'll turn on the effects and things will start falling apart. Civ 5, yes, it will play that just fine. And that is fun to play with touch. Battlefield 4, no, this is not a gaming machine. This is not a CAD workstation, though I know some of you will use these kinds of things for CAD. HD video editing, I have used these for HD video editing, and you're going to know some occasional stutters and lags when you're doing it, if you're doing full HD footage, but you can do it, and it's not going to burn and overheat. Speaking of that, quiet and cool running machine. If you're really doing something like playing Civ 5, or if you're processing full HD video, you'll feel some warmth here on the bottom side in this area. Nothing that's going to burn you, and you'll hear the fan, but it's nice. It's well mannered. It's kind of a not a screech, not a vacuum cleaner, nothing like that. So overall, cool and quiet machine. It has 2 1-watt stereo speakers, and sort of like the X240, they're loud and they're brash sounding. They're not great. The headphone jack is your friend, or Bluetooth speakers. Does have Bluetooth. That's part of that Intel dual band Wi-Fi card architecture, so you get that built in. By the way, as configured, our model with the 180 gig Intel Opal SSD drive, Core i5-4300U, the WQHD touchscreen on here, dual band Intel Wi-Fi AC, Bluetooth, the usual 720p webcam, fingerprint scanner on here, $1539 would be the price tag for this particular model. So how about display color quality? We already talked about brightness. Contrast is good, by the way, measuring at 680 to 1 contrast ratio, so that's pretty decent. 85% of sRGB. Now, among high-end Ultrabooks, that's not so impressive with good displays like the Samsung ATIVbook 9 Plus, the Sony Vaio Pro 13, variety of others that hit 95 to 97, even 99% of sRGB. We've got 85% here. Lenovo displays, often that's the case. They're not going for the real high color gamut. This is not for graphic artists. And here's our Adobe RGB, 66% of Adobe RGB. So there's your color gamut. Not super wide. For everyday use, normal people watching movies, looking at photos, you're not going to notice the difference. But for graphics professionals, keep that in mind. This probably isn't the display for you. In terms of synthetic benchmarks, this is how our Intel SSD scored, which is pretty good. Not frighteningly good in terms of the write speeds over here, but pretty darn good. The 4K write and read speeds are nice on this. For our other benchmark tests, you can see right here we have them on screen. So Geekbench 3, 2836 for the single core, 5415 for the multi-core, PC Mark 7, 5088. Very good score there for a Core i5, even a faster Core i5. That's a pretty zippy result right there. W prime, we computed pi in 20.78 seconds, and again you can see the configuration we're using right here. And let's give a try for playing some video so you can hear the speakers and see what the screen looks like when we are playing video. We'll look at our Sony RX10 camera video review. This is Lisa from Mobile Tech Review, and
we're at
50% volume. It's loud, but it's harsh.
So we will be comparing the thing we are
You'll definitely hear it.
These cameras, but hey, it feels weird if I'm not holding something up. Anyway, we're doing something a little different. We haven't covered many cameras, and we're going to cover.
And that is a 1080p stream that we've got going right there, so highest resolution, which obviously is lower than the native display resolution. But I think many of you probably will end up running this at 1920 by 1080. You can do that. You can change the resolution and control panel if you want, just for Windows applications that are not high DPI aware, that don't scale nicely, because otherwise you end up with really teeny UI elements in some programs, like say Adobe Photoshop. The menus are kind of on the teeny side. All right, now for the best part, maybe, for those of you who just wanted more battery life out of your X1 Carbon, definitely improved with Haswell here. Same 45 watt-hour lithium-ion battery that's nominally sealed inside. You can take the bottom off and then undo a connector, and you can remove it, so it's not glued in for life. Don't worry about that. It just doesn't have little latches to pop the battery out the way old laptops did, or non-Ultrabook laptops. Anyway, 8-cell battery inside, and we've been averaging about 7.5 to 8 hours on a charge, which is right up there with the other top Ultrabooks that have similar capacity batteries, say the Samsung AtiveBook 9 Plus again, because that one also has a very high resolution display. And that's with brightness set to 50%, Wi-Fi on, and a mix of use, doing MS Office, web browsing, playing some YouTube videos, social networking, that sort of thing. If you're going to be playing Civ, obviously, you're going to get shorter battery runtimes. If you're going to be processing HD video, you're going to get shorter runtimes. But in a mix of average business use, that's how long it lasts. Not as long as a MacBook Air, granted, but not bad by Windows standards. Speaking of Windows, this is available with your choice of Windows 8.1 64-bit, Windows 8.1 Pro 64-bit, or you can even be retro and get Windows 7 if you want. So all in all, we give this the seal of approval, even if I'm not so fond of that funny little strip up top there above the keyboard. I mostly just annoy it and grumble when it makes it a little harder to change the volume or the brightness. But overall, very nice keyboard, very durable design, as you expect from a ThinkPad. Good looking if you like the ThinkPad aesthetic. Very light. Again, 2.8 pounds for the 9 touchscreen, 3.15 pounds for the touchscreen model. Durable as all heck, high resolution display. My only other caveat is the display. Yes, it's very high resolution. The viewing angles are good, but it has that kind of murky look that makes it look a little less bright and sharp. So that's the Lenovo ThinkPad X1 Carbon. It's available now in your choice of touch or non-touch models. As ever, great keyboard on here, super build quality, and for Lenovo, this is a very attractive thin Ultrabook. I'm Lisa from Mobile Tech Review. Be sure to visit our website for the full written review, and don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel.